Hey everybody, this is Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. Week 3 of Pride Month, we are pulling no punches, which is bound to ruffle some feathers, and I kind of want it to. So here we go. The question we are asking is, am I polyamorous or am I just scared to leave? I don't typically use questions that I don't get, so I'm just letting you know that I got this question enough that I thought it was important to do a video on it. I think there's so much tied up in this question. There's so much about internalized homophobia, about compulsory heterosexuality. I'm going to go ahead and put lots of links in there for you. I would really love, if you're asking this question, to make sure you start with the questions of compulsory heterosexuality and internalized homophobia. The reason I say that is because this question sounds a lot like uncertainty, and this question sounds a lot like borderline shame, and I want to sort of normalize this question for you. This is by far the biggest asked question in almost any online community to which I belong. This is a question that is normalized in some ways for women to ask and not so normalized in some ways for men to ask. What that means is that there are women who are years into this relationship, maybe having kids and everything, that are questioning then, who are they really attracted to? And is there a specific person or aesthetic that they're attracted to, or is it just a generalized thing? Are they just not wanting to be in their marriage anymore, or are they genuinely polyamorous? Let's take a couple of minutes to define things, because you know I love a good definition and I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Polyamory is a giant umbrella under which a lot of things sit. And when I talk about polyamory in this video, I am talking about ethical non monogamy. That is where typically it starts out with two members of the relationship and they enter into the idea of either one of them having another relationship or both of them having other relationships. Maybe they both have a relationship with another person and bring a third into their relationship. The ethical part is the most important part, and here's why. When you are in a relationship, establishing the rules of that relationship, the verbiage of that relationship, and the ways that you are going to enter into conversation should things need to change, should be established and clear, and everyone in the relationship should agree to them. Whatever those rules are, if it is between consenting adults, I'm all for. I encourage people to do it in a healthy way. I encourage people to have real, honest conversations, be open about their feelings across the board. If feelings change or feelings get challenged or concern comes up, then that gets talked about when it comes up. Maybe in some relationships, you have like a check-in day once a week where everybody comes together and talks about their feelings. Whatever the language is, whatever the rules are of your relationship, you establish those rules. That's what I mean when I'm talking about polyamory. Here's what I see a lot. I see women who become adults, who get married and maybe have a couple of kids, and in the span of maybe lockdown or other things that happen in life, they start to understand their sexual attraction, their emotional attraction. They start to understand how attraction works for them better. Maybe they start to understand their sexuality in general better, and it is more complicated than heterosexual. Due to compulsory heterosexuality, we are all sort of programmed to assume that we are heterosexual from birth. And some people are heterosexual and always are heterosexual, and other people are not. The assumption is that everyone will be heterosexual and monogamous and get married and have kids, and then those kids get married and have kids, and that's how that works, right? That is not how that works for a lot of people, and we're finding more and more and more spaces where people can be honest about what they're going through. Here's where it goes a little bit off the rails. I see constantly where a woman will go online. I say online because typically this isn't happening a whole lot in person. And there's a woman who's saying,
hey, I've recently figured out that I am bi. I have told my spouse that I want to try polyamory, and he's fine with it as long as we stick with our OPP.
Which typically means one penis policy. For me, that's where red flags go up. In a strictly therapeutic sense, that's a conversation that needs to happen, honestly, as far as...
Excuse me, sir, why do you think as long as she is having sex with other women, it means that it's fine?
If a man is okay with their wife having sex with other women, but not okay with having sex with other men, there's reasons for that. In the spirit of the honesty that I want this video to be, typically they are homophobic reasons. The problematic part of that is the assumption that a relationship doesn't count as long as it's not with another man. There are definitely relationships out there that don't fall into this trap, but honestly, I see more that do. And I don't necessarily blame anyone in that situation. I definitely think that's a societal issue because as a society, we have put that expectation on there. It is completely fine for two women to experiment with each other, but it's a little weird for two men to experiment with each other. Why? If your relationship is set up that sex with someone else is cheating, then sex with someone else is cheating. To look at it any other way really should require some deep inner work on each person's behalf. If you've done that deep inner work and you actually do come to the conclusion that there's in no way any kind of homophobia, there's in no way any kind of, bi erasure happening, anything like that, great. You do you then. But that conversation has got to happen because the number of women that I see who are totally fine with this one penis policy idea because they're really just looking for a vagina anyway is astounding for what that actually does to a community of people that have been fighting for equal rights for so long. Before you go off on me, I'm not telling you to go and divorce in order to explore who you are. That's not what I'm saying. It is not your fault, person exploring their sexuality, that the world has sort of shoehorned you into this idea that you have to be woman and man, just the two of you together forever. And person whose spouse is exploring their sexuality, it is not your fault that you want to hold on in whatever way you can to the relationship that you have. You don't want to lose this person. But what is problematic is the idea that if we let them explore a little bit and just go out and do what they want to do, that they'll get it out of their system. That's not how it works. So the answer to the question, it's a question, which is pretty typical of a therapist. If you need to know if you are polyamorous or if you are just afraid to leave your marriage, then the question becomes, have you ever before in your life thought about the idea of polyamory? That's the first question. A yes or a no doesn't determine anything, but be clear about that. Has it ever occurred to you before that you may be okay with having more than one partner and being okay with your partner having more than one partner? The next question is, have you allowed your partner that you are approaching about the idea of polyamory time to process and space to process outside of your relationship? Everybody who is exploring this idea, if they're not immediately open to it, if it's not something they've already spoken about as a couple, there are reasons why they're resistant to it. And some of them are personal hangups and some of them are things that cannot be changed. It is never appropriate for us to change our partners in order to fit better what we need. If you have a partner that you've accepted into your life, you've accepted because of who they are. And yes, you should be honest with them about how that's changed for you, but you also need to let them be who they are. Trying to change them to fit who you've become is inappropriate and damaging. There's a reason we've started calling this ethical non monogamy. Over the years, we've called this a lot of different things. Ethical non monogamy has ethical in the name to remind people that this is something that is entered into with everyone's best interests and desires at heart. You may all go into this situation thinking, yeah, I can totally do this. And at some point you realize you can't. Guess what? That's no different from being married to somebody that at some point you realize you can't be married to anymore, okay? Or dating somebody and realizing you can't stay dating them. Relationships break up. That's fine. It doesn't mean that it was ethical non-monogamy that did that. What I hate to see is when people kind of shoehorn this idea of ethical non-monogamy into their relationship because they want to explore without losing the safety net of their relationship itself. Can you do that? Absolutely. With the complete and total 100% enthusiastic consent of your partner, which is why you need to give that partner space to discuss this and work through this outside of the two of you. Because of course they're going to be like,
yeah, let's do this.
If they only talk to you. If you're going to do this, the first step is to decide what it is that you want and take that to your partner. If you don't have answers to that, that's okay, but understand the conversation might not go quite as well if you're not super clear about what it is that you want. When you sit down to have that conversation, make sure you have it in a way that does not set them up for failure. Whatever it is, if you're giving them processing time, you need to set an end to the processing time to check in together because questions are going to come up and thoughts are going to come up and suspicions and assumptions are going to come up. You need to ask them to hold them until that time. And then you will discuss. So maybe it's the next day, maybe it's 3 days later, whatever it is, short amount of time. Let's check in and have questions. Otherwise, what you're gonna get is either resentment or a ton of questions sort of peppered around all over the place, which is gonna drive you nuts because you're like,
I'm so Tired of answering questions.
Set up a time to talk. Listen to what they're saying. If you can't listen to what your partner's saying because you just want what it is that you want, that may be a sign you're not actually looking to open the relationship. You're actually looking to have a safety net until you figure out how this other piece works. And then you have to ask yourself the question, is that how you want to treat your partner? Like, if your answer is yes to that, I can't do anything for you. I can't tell you you're wrong because it's your experience and it's your life, you know? I would love to think that if your answer is yes to that, then you would know, okay, yeah, let's peace out then. But not everybody works like that. Part of the point of this is to work how you work, right? I think a lot of people would be more open to ethical non-monogamy if they approached it in the right way. If people approached it with the idea of, I would like to open this relationship, I could see myself having a real intimate bond with more than just one person, but I want to keep my bond with you and open it up to others too. What do you think? Those kind of questions are appropriate questions if this is something that you're exploring and something you want to explore with your partner. You have to remember, though, that you are including another human being with all their baggage, all their thoughts, all their processes in this decision, and they have a right to say no. And if they say no, then you have to make a decision. Do you rewrite the rules of your relationship in any way? Do you leave the relationship? Do you decide not to explore? All of those are appropriate and understandable decisions. You've got to decide at that point, what are your options and what are you going to do? It sounds really great to say, I've been exploring this part of myself. I'd like to continue to explore it. I want to keep this other relationship because I love this person. If you approach the person that you love and they tell you honestly after processing and thinking that you exploring it would be hurtful to them, then you have to make a decision. I would never be able to tell you what that decision should be. I imagine if I were in a situation similar to that, that would be a hard thing for me to decide. We don't always have to follow and explore all of our desires, but we also owe it to ourselves to know what we can do without and what we can't do without. Look, in every relationship, there are things that we become less in so our partner can be more in, or there are things that we give up and there's compromises we make and we're willing to make them because of the relationship. No relationship should ever necessitate that you give up a core part of who you are, though. If that's the case, then that relationship might not be the relationship for you. Understanding whether that's a core part of who you are is going to be, not shockingly, best done in a therapist's office. If you and your partner are looking at exploring ethical non-monogamy, finding a therapist that will work with you through some of those questions is a great idea, because it ensures that those questions, those thoughts, those things that maybe don't feel safe to bring up when you're talking about it at home actually do get discussed. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions or any thoughts that this brought up, please go ahead and comment or contact me. I'm so excited for our topic next week. So until then, have a great week. Take care of yourselves and each other.